you know, running over the tracks and everything, and at that time, they thought it was the township's responsibility, and it's like, no, it's not, but we got through that. But I've contacted him by email and actually followed up, and I'll have to follow up again with him, but I've gotten no response and asked him to take a look at that.
It's actually a spring fed stream.
Yeah.
And they should never put it there because it's right
It's a
on
bad
the
spot.
Yeah.
They always take the, you know, the constant grade, the streams are the best measure of that. All right, Todd.
So we're going to change that 72,000 to 20,000.
Okay, page 6. Ready to move on?
The biggie on there is the 451,535, which is the rec complex expenditures. And of that 335,000, 240 of that is for the park improvements at Windy Hill and Winchester Parks. And of that 240, 120,000 of that we're receiving in grant money. But we have to show the full amount on the expenditure side, since I showed a grant of 120 coming in on the revenue side. Then the remaining balance is to construct a trail, and Mike gave me a price to put the binder down, the wearing course, the storm inlets, and also includes the cost for the concrete curbing and the islands.
This is
And that's to do the the parking lot expansion.
This is at the Miller Park.
Yes. Yeah. And this here kind of gives you, this is the best I could find.
Yeah,
This is the existing parking lot right now, right here. And if anyone was down, Mike did start to move some ground and put a little stone down, but this would be a parking lot expansion here, which our guys would be doing most of it. We'd have to have someone come in and do the concrete curbing, but our guys would do the rest of the work. And I know anyone I've talked to that's at that field while it's being used, that parking is desperately needed.
it is. They have to park along the road kind of.
Yeah, Miller Drive.
All the way down.
Yeah.
And so it's not a very good situation at all.
And it is part of our master plan, and I'll show you the overall master plan when we get to the rec fund.
Right.
When you have the rec fund, there's $50-some thousand sitting in there. Are you going to use that $50-some thousand for these parks? Because you can.
No, part of it is going to be for Haintown, which we'll talk about when we get to the rec fund.
So
Haintown,
335 is not including Hangtown?
no, the rest of this is for Miller Park.
We have to put hydrant tax on people, and we're spending $300-some thousand on our parks. I mean, in 1 year, that's a lot of
Wait,
money.
Sue.
Well,
That's a lot
when you
of money.
say in 1 year, you have to remember, the $240,000 project's been in the works for the last two. We're actually going
Right.
into our third year.
But it's still, that part's going to at least cost
Yeah.
$120,000
Correct.
out of pocket, right? And then another 90, 100.
Maybe we should just do it with our parks.
Well, I don't say throw it away, but I mean, that's a lot of money to spend in, township dollars, that's all I'm saying. The rec fund is not going towards any of this?
Not this project, no.
You know, we get $2,500 every time a residential unit is built.
A new lot is created.
How many years do we have to use that 25? Is it 3 or 5?
Three, unless they sign a waiver, which most sign the waivers.
They do.
We've only had one that has
So
not.
you keep track of, a developer could say, you haven't spent my money,
Right.
so I'm going to reclaim it.
Right.
So you-
I don't know.
There's only one that I'm aware of that ever signed that paper, and we've spent that amount since then, so.
So we spent the 260,000 in 2015, oh no, we're focusing 40,000 on the parks in 2015, and then we're going to spend an initial 335, am I reading that correctly?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And of the 335, 240,000 of that is that DCNR project, which is a matching grant. We pay 120,000 and the state gives us 120,000. And then the balance is for Miller Park for these improvements.
Yeah.
It's 95,000.
How do you feel about it?
I was just looking initially, because I was looking at 260,000 and then another 335, because that was the initial in the 2015 budget. So I was like, whoa, we're spending over $500,000 in 2 years. But that's really not the case.
No.
We spent the 40,000.
We spent
That's
40.
what I was going with.
Yeah, we want to,
Oh, that's
it's another
just-
3.
Yeah, just making sure I've got it straight in my head.
But actually, it's 100, it's 200, it'd be 220-some thousand out of pocket here, which is still a lot of money, considering it's a lot of money.
I mean, I always think, if we had police protection in this township, it would cost us $1 million a year.
800,000 maybe,
Well,
If you're lucky.
$1 million.
All at last.
So,
if you're lucky.
so we're blessed in that regard, and also, quickly add, we have had a policy here for a long time. If a community wants police protection, they'll petition us for it. We'll go to Southern Regional Police, and we'll get how much it'll cost to serve, say, Forest Lakes or Southern Farms, and then that community pays for that service. That's our existing policy. It can be changed, but that's what it is now. So, okay.
And just real quick, just to remind everyone, this is down at Windy Hill Park.
Where are you?
Windy Hill Park. I just want to explain the parks here quick. This is an existing ball field, and there's a steep embankment here, which is washing away and deteriorating. And this will actually be a retaining wall, which will also serve as bleacher seats. And then there's a little bit of a trail that comes around here now, but this trail will be rebuilt. This here will all tie in. This is new trail. This will be a trail that's handicap accessible. If you have any handicapped players or anything, we'll be adding bleachers, some benches, and then a youth playground and a top lot here. So it's a pretty good expansion and added amenities to that park, because currently the only play equipment is a swing set, is all we have there now.
These parks are being used?
Oh, yeah.
The playgrounds, well, I want to just make sure we,
And if you're familiar, the rest stops over here, 83, and then the other fields are here, and there's SYC's building. And one of the complaints that we would hear, which is a good reason to move the play equipment, while we only had one swing, this particular swing was out of sight of parents, that were watching their children play ball, but also want to keep an eye on their kids that are playing. So this here is really an ideal spot. It's kind of in the middle that you can see them from all the fields now. So, but that is Windy Hill. And then Winchester, that's a small community park. That has a couple pieces of play equipment back there. It has a basketball court, which most people think is a parking lot because it's right adjacent to the street. This will be regulation size half court, and it'll have a chain link fence now between the court and the street. We'll be putting in a handicap parking space with a trail going back, some benches, planting a couple trees, and this will be a top lot.
that'll be nice.
Here.
I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's really run down and needs a shot in the arm. And Todd, we're going to get a really nice basketball
Yes.
basket.
Yes.
Yeah, you see some of these real cheap fan-shaped metal bank boards, and the kids hang on the rims and bend the rims. So we talked about getting some of those indestructible for that. Not to worry about it. And that's in a good area, because that's part of Southern Farms. I think it'll be used a lot more now. It's all been done this year?
Yeah, we plan to put that out for bid in December.
I mean, both,
And all three of them.
all three of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they'll all be bid together.
This one we got a real high bid on last year.
Yeah, if you remember, we bid kind of late, and the art consultant said all the contractors were very busy, so they weren't getting any bids. The only one that did bid, it was due at 10 in the morning, and that was from Kinsley. And the guy was honest, he said he came in, he said, I forgot all about this till this morning and I threw some numbers together. And when we opened the bid, he really threw some numbers together.
Well, that's a question I'd have about those numbers. If you're projecting that you've got this 335,000 and you get a bid of $500,000, I guess the question is can't you downsize your design to match the money you want to spend?
Well, the thing is, like that $500,000 bid that we received was just way out of line. Because the consultant that we have, that's all they do is these park projects. So their estimates are based off of actual
Okay.
costs of previous projects. So
We just
they're
didn't know.
pretty close.
Good question, though.
Well, the question is, you paid the consultant, and you said it earlier in the meeting, Paul, you paid the consultant last year, do you have to repay him again this year to put out that bid?
She did not submit anything at this point in time as far as a change order to her contract. So, I mean, it's not too much involved for her to really just changing dates on the documents.
All right, move on.
Were you on page 7?
We're on page 7, I believe.
Under 483,160, the third line down, that number's going to be changed to match that MMO I talked about in the front, in the revenue side. That 20,000 will become 21,442.
Okay. Any questions? All right, let's move on.
Oh, the only other thing I have, I thought I added this, I do need to add a line item. If you look in the sewer fund, the general fund, because we're collecting District 2 sewer rent through the general fund, the general fund is still going to owe the sewer fund because of the GO note from Phase 3, $14,855. So I am going to be adding a line item here, 492.080, and that'll show up in your new packet, but there at the bottom will be 492.080, and that fund is due to sewer fund, and that amount will be $14,855. And then any other revenue beyond that point from now on, and in the future, will all stay within the general fund, since the general fund financed that project.
All right. Moving on, Todd.
Here, we can hear a second.
So you're gonna, is this gonna be under expenses and collection, 492,080? Or just under the revenue side? They're not gonna be under, it's gonna be on the revenue side?
Well, if you look in the green pages,
Yeah, what I mean.
I don't know if you saw there, on page 3 is the sites in District 2. I show the revenue coming in budget at 15,000.
District 2.
Okay.
Okay, got it, all right. And then-
So that's coming in, and just this first year, the 14,855 will go to the sewer fund, because that's what's due to that for the GO note. And then the balance of what's due from sites on Phase 3 is all due to the general fund. Does that make sense? And then when we get back to the sewer fund, you'll see that 14,855 coming into the sewer fund.
So this is for 1 and 2, sewer 1 and 2.
No, Phase 3.
This is
Just
phase
phase
3,
three.
492,080. You
Yes.
said it was sewer 2, it's phase 3?
Now, due to, DUE space TO.
Phase 3 of the project,
Yeah,
You got it, so.
due to
yes.
sewer funds. So, liquid fuels. Everyone, I guess, had the opportunity to look through those projects. Anyone have any questions on those? As we know, Mount Airy Road is in ill repair. I believe what Jeff is going to do, as we talked, we're going to go from 851 to the traffic circle. And talking to Jeff, I believe we're going to do an add alternate to see what the difference would be to pave from the circle down to the railroad tracks. Because from there on, the rest of it's pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do that.
So if the bid's in too high, we can at least cut out that lower section. But we definitely need to do down there around the
It's an
shop.
expensive project.
Yeah.
We had to postpone it from last year, but, I mean, it's probably the most expensive public works project in the history of Shrewsbury Township.
Yeah. And then the three culvert projects, if anyone had, the photos weren't the greatest, but I tried my best for you to be able to see how, I mean, the pipe's corroded, and it's gone.
Those are definite needs.
Yeah.
You don't wait till it washes out.
Right, so, but so that's what those major projects are, but,
I know at one time we increased our road specifications many years ago.
okay.
And the thing is, you know, when we build a road, that's built well, so we don't have I guess it would be before you were here.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't done, hasn't been done since.
We did increase our specifications, but
Yeah. I don't know if that was done after Mount Airy was constructed or not.
you know,
Mount Airy's been-
Elm Drive wasn't built very well. There's a story behind that, you know, the housing inspection was not handled properly, and
Yeah.
it's already coming apart.
Yeah.
Well, one quick question, a side question. When we have developers come in and build along Elm Drive, we can request that they upgrade that part of the road, can't we? As part of the improvements.
We could, yes, yeah,
Let's keep that in mind.
yeah.
All right. I'll tell you a funny story. Walt Kennedy had a buyer for that 52 acres down there on Elm Drive. And he only agreed to improve, it never went through, but he only agreed to improve his side of the
again, you know, that boils down to us spreading that out over 30 years. So if we were to continue to collect only the minimum that we had set up, we're going to have a deficit every year because our note payments are going to be higher than what the revenue is. The only way we're going to up that is if we shorten their term for repayment, which would increase their payment. But Sue raised a valid point, is that note, it's actually a 15-year note that's locked, interest rate is locked for 5 years. They don't do general obligation notes more than 5 years. You'll have it for 15, but every 5 years you need to renegotiate the interest rate. Now we can put it out and rebid the rate, but like Sue was saying, and the reason we didn't do phase 3 through a GO note is we had a fund balance that could handle that because we've already paid for it. We're getting 2.75% interest on that money, and if we had it in the bank, you get what, 0.10?
If you're lucky.
51%.
Yeah. So, you know, in 18, I believe, year and a half, or 17, I believe it's a year and a half, that 5 years is up already. And at that time, we may want to look if the borough just wants to absorb that debt. You know, again, depending on what the interest rate is, you know, we can get better return on our money than what we are with it sitting in the bank.
Finance it this month,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Where's the $80,000 on the EDUs that you sold?
We haven't gotten the money yet.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
We don't know when they're gonna.
Yeah, and I actually received a letter today that they no longer, because I had sent them a letter a week and a half ago explaining that if they're not going to use them for that specific property, you know, they have to come back to us if they want to use them anywhere else. But they also, the borough wanted to be involved in the EDU sale, so they actually went to the borough and the borough did not approve that transfer.
What?
Yeah.
For us, good.
Yeah.
To help out?
So, correct.
Good.
So I got a letter from Stewart Properties that said they're withdrawing their request. They don't need them at this point in time.
Cool.
What are they gonna do?
That's good. That's
What
good,
else?
that's very
It's been
good.
bad. So, we've sold EDUs for under $2,000, I think. Their paying us, what, 10?
No. We're paying 10.
88.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other ones we sold for 59.
Well,
Yeah.
But-
we sold, well,
You've sold them for 20,000, you've sold them for 10, 5, 7, you've sold them for 11, you sold them for 12. And there's only so many, and I'm glad
Well, I
that
see
maybe
your
they'll
point.
still be there for Shrewsbury Township
I
residents
see your
if
point.
they're needed.
The
'Cause there's-
only problem is if the boroughs all of a sudden release a lot more EDUs that they don't need, and then the market's gonna
Oh,
fall in
well.
space. All right, not a big deal.
And then again, you know, fair tax, that's what we collect through real estate taxes. That money that comes in gets split among the 3 fire departments. That's any place it can go. It's in a money market account, so we have to have a minimum balance of 3,000, so that's why you see that 3,200 there. Street light fund, we talked about that earlier. Again, we generate that revenue, we pay for the street lights, that's all it can be used for. While there's, you know, a $300 deficit, I think it's going to be a lot of years to burn into that 6,000 before that gets used up. Again, with the hydrants, we're looking here starting January with $3,300. So that'll cover about a month and a half, January, part of February. So we want to get a little bit of a fund balance there. So I think after 2016, we'll be able to have a little better feel where our fund balance is and if we can lower or if it needs, I don't think it'll have to go up, but if it can be adjusted and lowered a little bit. But we do need that to go into 2016 to pay those early months before the real estate taxes start flowing in. So while you look at these numbers and you're like, oh my gosh, look at those deficits, I think they're all clearly explainable that they're, you know, capital projects, or they just have specific uses that we can't control the revenue, you know, such as the rec fund. Where I get concerned is if we have a deficit, we have no capital expenditures and it's all operating. then there's a big problem, but we're not at that point.
And the point I was trying to mention, we don't want to get to that, but we want to have a fund or funds that we can go to in case of need, some unexpected expenditure, so we don't have to go in debt. The township is not in debt, well, we're holding some debt, but we're not in debt at all, are we?
Well, with the exception of the sewer fund.
I'm saying that's going to be repaid.
Correct, yeah, I mean, that's not through the taxpayers, that's through users.
So we want to.
We've already spent that money.
Right.
We've just spent that money. I mean,
Well,
Just trying to get it
not the yeah,
the GO note, you're paying yourselves back with it.
no, because we're making payments to the bank for that.
Weren't they lending you the money?
Well, they paid us back already.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's
They
already.
gave you the money, and
They
now we're
already,
paying
they
them
already
money.
paid the township back, so now they're paying the bank back.
That's why we have more money in here than
One of my, and Paul raised a good question, one of my long-term aspirations for the last 2 years has been to work with the board and maybe, well, certainly some key staff and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people from the community, is I still have a strong desire and I hope an achievable goal that we can develop a 5-year plan so we can do some more planning more than just year to year. So as I said, I'm the eternal optimist, so I'm hoping there's less distraction next year, that we can focus more on that, because I think it's a valuable tool, financial tool for the township and the board in planning for the future. So with that said, I'm done.
Any questions, anybody on the board, all done here? Jeff? Okay.
That was a very good presentation.
Yes,
Thank
thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
And,
Can I ask one thing, and I'm sorry, this is like 5 steps back, but on the green page of the revenue sheet for the general fund,
Okay.
we have this $208,000 planned for transfer. That's now gone away.
Where are you in?
On page 4/10, it's under the general fund.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Oh, transfer from GO notes?
Right.
Yeah, that would have been for the Seitzland Sewer Project, Phase 3 that was just wrapped up.
Okay.
And our initial plans when we did the budget in 2014 for the current year is that we were going to do a second GO note and borrow the money from the bank,
Okay.
and the bank would reimburse the township. But we decided that we would just finance the project, so that's the reason there's no transfer coming in. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
any Art and Al, anything else?
I just want to know if Bill cut that limp loose at Aberdeen today. He's down there.
Wearing gloves.
Yeah, he had a torch, I saw it.
We wish you all the best in the coming election.
That's not gonna rain.
We don't have to do.
It's not gonna rain? No?
We're gonna be warm, they say, in the
That'd be
60s
good.
all through mid-November.
Yeah, be good.
Okay, well, nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll make the motion. I'll second, either way.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.